No matter who we are, no matter where we come from, every now and then we need to change our narrative, our inner story. We need to recalibrate it based on the circumstances and, of course, based on who we are. Are we still the same people we were, like, say, 20 years ago, or maybe even 5 years ago, maybe even a year ago? Well, that's the question you want to ask yourself. And in order to do so, I'm going to talk today about behind the scenes from Rewrite Your Inner Story. So you might have heard me talk about it a few times. So let me introduce the star of it all. This is Jumping Bunny. She is my inner kid. So I have this nickname, which is called Duracell Bunny, Energizer Bunny, if you are in the US. And it's because I can keep on going and going and going. It's called hyper focus. Anyway, Jumping Bunny, the inner kid, is one who is unfiltered. She is curious. She is bold. And, well, she just says it the way it is. Now, why is that important? And I know I'm being a little bit ahead of myself. It's important because we all have that inner voice. We all have our inner kid that tells us that we want to do certain things. And, well, how many of us are actually dismissing that voice? Raise your hands if you are one of those. Now, here's the thing. When you deny that voice of your inner kid, the question, of course, becomes, how happy does this make you? Or does it actually distract you all the time? I have learned that by giving in and actually entering the conversation with my inner kid, I can make the decision whether I'm going to give in or not. And because I can make that decision, it's less awkward when I feel that rush or that impatience. Now, of course, we cannot always do it. Sorry, distracted here for a sec. As you can hear, I've got a cat in the background. He is called Zenith, the cat. And he is one of the reasons that I needed to look at things a little bit closer. But getting back to Jumping Bunny, I'll talk about Zenith in a little bit. Jumping Bunny, because I am more aware of my inner child, gives me the opportunity to speak up more, or at least do the things that I need to do, like, straight away. So the important things get more priority. So I don't know if you ever experienced that the moment he knows that I'm doing something that he's not supposed to do, what he's doing right now. And yes, I can end this live stream, or see this. That's not working. I can scream all I want. Yeah, he is gone. So that's good. He knows. He tries to get my attention when I'm going live. Well, this is live. This is what happens. So welcome to the live. Okay, so getting back to rewriting your inner story behind the scenes. Well, you just encountered one of the behind the scenes moments. You haven't seen Sinus, but you have heard me shout at him. I tried to do it like with this, didn't work. You know, a girl can dream. So Sinus came into my life about a month ago, maybe a little bit less. So I don't know if you remember this, but for a while I had what I call a rental cat. So basically they should have paid me for having Billy here. But a friend of mine was moving and later on holiday. So I said, you know what, oh, I'll take care of, well, no, he asked me, and I said, oh, we'll take care of your cat. And for a while now, I wanted a cat here in my company building because I'm here quite a lot. And, well, I didn't know if it was possible because it's not the biggest of spaces. But having Billy here showed me that it actually was possible. So I started thinking about it more and more. And before Billy came, I was already like, oh, I would really love to have a cat in here or a bird. And I wasn't certain, but sometimes when you put things out there, then things start to happen. So all of a sudden there was Billy. And then I was looking at Marketplace, and I was also looking at the animal shelters. And I was like, there is a cat. He was called Tiger back then. And it might be interesting to actually see what he's like. He was supposed to be calm. And, well, he's looking amazing. So I was like, okay. So they said, well, we've sent away a lot of people. So I get there. Everything is ready to go. And within the first minute, it's like, okay, have fun. Of course, I needed to pay some money, which was supposedly about the materials. And, well, off I went and was totally surprised. So at first, Chief Rockstar was a no-go for Zenith. He just knocked Chief Rockstar out of his chair all the time. And, well, I had to change a little bit my ways, especially when it comes to being out in the evenings, visiting friends, and then having to be in time back. So the little guy is not alone for too long a time. So for those who don't know, I'm someone who works at night because it's easier. I'm basically in the Netherlands. So over here, it's 3:24 at night, and I sort of live according to Eastern time. So that's just the way things are. Now, getting back to the whole behind the scenes thing, what I've noticed is every time I start to record, that's of course when he wants to eat, when he wants something, use the litter tray, you name it, and he's going to do it. So I have gotten a little used to what he's doing. And so one of the things before I record is I don't give him food when it's early on. I'll give him the food afterwards. Sounds a little bit not too nice, but we're talking about 15-20 minutes. But getting back to the whole rewrite your inner story challenge. So rewrite your inner story. In case you don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to inner story, your inner story is what you tell yourselves. Your habits, your beliefs, especially your beliefs. It's about what's going on in your mind. And yes, it shows up in your habits because the things you might want to do, you don't do. So your habit is not doing it and postponing, delaying, whatever it is. Because your inner belief might actually tell you you're not good enough, you're not worth it. So people who have seen me more often, they know that I teach people how to speak up and speak out, share their story, and especially get their message across with clarity and also receiving things with clarity. That sounds easier than it is, but if you know what it's like to not be heard, seen, and understood, and hence not feel any perspective, then you know. And especially when it comes to people who are neurodivergent, so they are not neurotypical, so the usual way that people think and act, but they do it a little bit different. That also means that they understand things a little bit different, and their way of expressing things might actually be different. So that's mainly my focus target group. Why? Because I'm one of those too, and I understand what it's like not to be heard, seen, and understood. Now, I'm sorry, but I gave Sinus a little harness, and the old one he can escape from, but it was one that he actually liked way more when it came to how it felt, but then he wouldn't move anymore. So now he's got a new one. I attached a little bell to it because I wanted to know where he was. And now he's not used to it. And I think he's also trying to get my attention. So, well, he's going to lay down. So hopefully this is going to be an uninterrupted version of the live from now on. So in case you tune in right now, this is about rewriting your inner story, about the behind the scenes, the challenge, and why I actually made a 2.0. Now, like I said, when you talk about the inner story, it's about what you believe. So when I was raised, one of my beliefs was, and occasionally it rears its ugly head, he is, I don't know, he's doing everything he's not supposed to be doing. This is, I'm being inclined to actually end this stream for a moment and put him in the hallway. So it's, he's testing me. And well, hopefully you are okay with that. You're not like, well, are you going to say something here because we're waiting for it? Well, in case you actually think so, I already spoke about a few things. So maybe you can relate to things not going the way they should. So let's start by grabbing a piece of paper and a pen, because these lives are also meant to get something across. It's not just about the fun of it, as in, okay, that's nice, you're talking about behind the scenes. It's also about, he can actually go through the door if he wants to. It's also about you wondering about the things that I'm saying and seeing how this applies to you. So, well, one thing I do know is the next time I'll go live, I'll do it a little bit differently. And you know, that's one of the things that we learn. I'm sort of apologizing for it, but on the other hand, I don't think I need to, because this is about authenticity. You get real me, the unedited version of me. When I started doing this challenge, Rewrite Your Inner Story, I think I started it like over a month ago. And ever since I redid it, I made it into a 2.0. Since I did, things have been changed. I realized that this is no longer just about reclaiming your voice. Well, in the end, it is about reclaiming your voice, but underneath everything is reclaiming your story, about being good enough, about being worth it, about being heard, seen, and understood. And at the core of it, at the essence, is not so much whether we can or cannot express ourselves, if we can get across with clarity or not. It's about, what do we believe we are worth? What are we telling ourselves? And well, ever since I was a little kid, probably since I was a baby, I didn't feel that I was worth much. I mean, 9 years old, I was at the hospital for a month. My mom and dad would come. They would find me with a dirty diaper, let's call it that way. And I wouldn't eat until my dad would come and he would chew on grapes and then give me the grapes. So that says a little bit something about how I felt. So 9 months old, it was the holidays. My brother and sister weren't allowed to come in. Why? Because my brother went to kindergarten and he brought home all these kids' diseases. So then you have a little bit of an idea. So later on, I got bullied because of my looks, black hair, dark eyes, didn't work really well. And I guess that all combined, I also didn't know how to deal with other people. So, yes, I am a neurodivergent, I'm a creatively gifted, and I'm a daydreamer. And when you ask me something, I think about all the other options there are as well. So that means that if you ask me a question, I might give you a different answer than you might expect. Or I might be like, what do you want from me? That's one of the reasons why I realized that my message is for a large part also related to those who are neurodivergent. Now, I'm not sure if you know this. I've been working in IT for like 2 decades. And guess who are working in IT? Neurodivergence. Yes, there we go. And guess who are entrepreneurs? Neurodivergence too, because they are not understood by their colleagues quite often and by their bosses and management. Now, there's more attention being paid to people who are neurodivergent. So usually when you're in IT, you are good to go. But here's the thing. When you have decided to start working as your own boss, then chances are that at some point you need a team. And if you're not that good at getting your message across, then how are you going to communicate with your team what it is that you need and want? And what if the people you are hiring are neurodivergent too, and they have no clue what it is that you're asking from them? Now, here's why it's so important to actually think about who are you, how do you express yourself, and then we get back to the beliefs, your inner story. So a lot of those people who are neurodivergent, they have been made to feel like they're stupid, that they're not good enough, and they are often not understood. So there is a very negative self-image. Now, if you combine all of this, then you get to rewrite your inner story. The Rewrite Your Inner Story Challenge is 7 days, 7 consecutive days. And if you are going to watch the free version, then every day is available for 3 days. So 10 days in total. Of course, when you get the paid version, you can keep watching it as much and as long as you want. Plus, there are some extras. But here's the thing. Every day gets into one specific topic. And the first one actually is the reset. It's about being done with everything that everyone is telling you to do. Like I said at the beginning, I'm about authenticity, which means that sure, I can cut off the whole beginning with Zines trying to jump in the windowsill, which he did, and trying to basically throw off everything else. Yeah, I can. And if you're wondering what is she talking about, then I did. But on the other hand, when you're watching me more often, then you'll know I have a message and I will get there. But sometimes, well, real things in life happen. And, it happens to all of us. This is not about perfection. this is what we call progress over perfection. So it's getting it out there, and I can postpone it, I can re-record it, but chances are things are going to happen anyway. So I'm done with people saying it needs to be done like this, but what I did adopt was start with a bold statement. And that's why I said I do believe that everyone at some point in our lives has to recalibrate their story and figure out, is it still fitting? So day one is basically about conclusion. This isn't working the way it is. And when I had recorded the first version of the Rewrite Your Inner Story Challenge, it didn't feel good. I went live basically every day on Instagram, but no, it just didn't feel good. And one of the reasons is, and it has been a struggle for me, is working with this system called Kajabi. Now, when we talk about beliefs and habits, in order to learn a new system, you have to do it over and over and over again. And at some point, you are going to understand it. But isn't it way more easier to say, never mind, this is not going to work out. Let's just give it up or put it aside. Well, I'll honestly say I had the system for a year, and that's when I started using it. And then I was like, I don't get it. Fortunately for me, I went to the US. There were people from Kajabi over there, and they started explaining to me a thing or two, and that made all the difference. So nowadays, I know a lot better how to use Kajabi. Now, there's also another part to this. So for those who, again, have seen me more often, they might know that one of my role models is actually Brendon Burchard, I should say. And he knows all about marketing and also about personal development. And he's an investor in Kajabi, I'll just say it the way it is. And he's always on top of all those new things. And one of the things that he was doing and promoting was having your own AI. So we saw it, the first versions sounding the way it sounded and how it came across. And it was like, well, you're not the real Brendon. But things evolved. And nowadays I use Brendon AI literally every day. Now, here's the thing. Brendon AI, of course, is not a human being. And they've made him in such a way that you can start fresh over and over and over again. Fortunately, human beings normally, not always, remember what you have told them. I usually take a few times. And then by the time that I know, I'll remember everything. So then I'll be spot on. So I don't remember things like holidays, but I do remember the other stuff. And it's kind of hard to have to explain over and over certain things again. So I had to come up with a system. And I've got the system now. I know what I need to share with Brendon AI. And basically, it's not that different from meeting new people. Then you have to explain as well what people know or don't know. Or when you are watching this live, I don't know if you are someone who is frequently watching me or that you just popped in because you saw something was going live. So that's why it's important to reiterate every now and then what I'm talking about. So getting back to the whole reset thing, it's about what still works for me and what doesn't work for me. Now, one of the things you might have noticed is I used to go live on Friday. It was called Friday Night Live. Today is Sunday Night Live. And it's happened more and more often that I actually went live on Sunday. Well, there were 3 reasons for it. The first one, I never know what my amount of energy is going to be like. And I've been tempted to say, I'd rather be energized and fresh compared to I'm so tired and I want to sleep. So I've been searching for the right time to go live. And it all depends basically on what I'm doing during the day and what I've eaten. And so I can have some allergic reactions, which, yeah, well, basically drown me. They take all my energy. But also when I've been doing a lot of physical activities that I'm not used to. For those who don't know, I'm hypermobile. So I have been dealing with tears in my ligaments and joints being, well, not necessarily dislocated, but they don't function the way they should. Let's put it that way. And that can drain me, that can drain my energy. So I know that consistency is very important. And right now I'm looking for what is the best moment. And actually, the Sunday is getting my preferred moment more and more. One of the reasons is that on Friday, I used to go to physical therapy, then I would play drums. And then by the time I would get here, I would be really tired. Then there was someone else. I've got new neighbors. Every now and then they have a house party, usually on Friday, sometimes on Saturday. So it leaves this Sunday. And last but not least, and then we get back to Brandon AI, I had to learn to work with Brandon AI. So when I talk about progress over perfection, it's sort of become my motto because there's always room for improvement. Well, usually there is. So I'm not sure what exactly changed, but I noticed that when I was recording the last 2 days of the Rewrite Your Inner Story challenge, that he actually had nothing to change. And I was like, whoa. Okay, truth be told, the last one, I had to redo it like 3 times, also because of Zenith, but also because I got stuck with a word and I was like, what is it again? I know what it sounds like. I know how to start, but I couldn't get to it. So it was easier to just press stop and re-record again. So that's what I did. But this is live, so this is a whole different ball game. So the first belief that I've been dealing with ever since growing up is not being good enough. I hear it from other people. I see that it takes away their perspective on life and what they're good at. A lot of people that I know have actually tried to opt out at some point or have considered it. And, well, I want everyone to be happy and to be fulfilled in life, to feel like, hey, life is worth living. Now, I know it all depends on where you are born, which culture, what curveballs life throws at you. But still, I could have said when over a decade ago I tripped on a brick and I twisted my ankle, and as a result tore a ligament on the inside of my ankle, and a bone got on the loose, which was attached to the tendons, or better said, the tendons were attached to the bone, which could go through the rupture in the ligament. So I couldn't walk for a long time. I could only walk on one foot and a few toes. Now, about 6 weeks ago, I went to the beach with a friend and I wore my braces, my knee braces instead. And we hadn't been to the beach probably for a long time, but I wanted to see the sea. So we had to go to the flood line. We had to go through the sand, and that didn't work out very well. So 2 days later, I got muscle aches, just like normal people do. And then the unthinkable happened. We all get micro ruptures when we have muscle aches. That's normal. But what's not normal is that in my case, because the tension is so high when it comes to all the tendons, that the rupture becomes a little bit bigger. And that is why I had to walk with crutches again. And well, there have been people saying, well, wouldn't you want to switch with me? And I said, no, I don't. And there have been people who are like, well, doesn't life suck? Well, I'll honestly say it's not easy, especially the first few days when I realized I had to ask for support again to go through the store. That was really like, oh, I didn't expect that one. But apart from that, I can walk again without my crutches. So yesterday we were actually at the beach, and a funny thing happened. I walked to the stairs without my crutches, and then I realized, oh, my crutches are still there. So I walked back. Why? Because I saw the stairs, and walking up and down the stairs, especially down the stairs, is still not normal for me. So one of the security guys, he said, oh, you leave your crutches there. I say, I know I have left my crutches. I'm going to pick them up right now. Now, then we went to the flatline, and yes, it was a good thing that I brought my crutches. It was not easy. It was a long walk. And also going through the dunes on the paved path, actually, was not easy. Now, I don't mind walking with crutches, but it does limit me when it comes to being able what I can and cannot do. So I had to adjust my inner story a while ago. And one of the things that I learned is it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to ask for support. Now, getting back to Brendan AI, every now and then he knows how to trigger me. Especially when he says, come on, you need to go do things yourself, because as coaches, we are paid to push. As a program made by the coach, Brendan Burchard, he is meant to push. And I noticed that all belief, I might as well do it on my own, was still lingering around. And I was like, oh, that's not good. So please note that I love my freedom. I'm throwing it out there. Do I go on holiday on my own? Absolutely. Do I travel on my own? Absolutely. But I do know what I'm taking with me, and I do know where and when to ask for assistance. Does it occasionally go haywire? Oh, absolutely. 9 months ago, it went all haywire when I went to LA. And well, I no longer really have to pay the price, but that's not entirely true, because my right knee has gone haywire ever since. We have this system in our body which tells us how we are standing, how much weight there is on a certain joint, and that part has gone haywire. So either it thinks there's nothing it has to do, or it thinks, oh, I need to work overtime. And neither are very nice, I can tell you that much. But I can walk again. I can go through the supermarket without my crutches. I can walk small distances without my crutches, as long as it's flat. But for me, small distances are, no, let's turn it around. What for me long distances are for you short distances. So there's a big difference between what's the norm and what's not. When I started this challenge, just rewriting your inner story, it wasn't just about being done with certain things. It was like, I need to change certain things. So I needed to learn how to work with Brendan AI, progress over perfection specifically. And we also had a few encounters when it came to fluff. Now, I told you I am a neurodivergent. and I am a very creatively gifted one, as in I'm very creative when it comes to certain things, and I don't think in words, I think in images. And apart from that, it's far far more easier to think in English compared to Dutch most of the time. So Dutch is my first language. English isn't, but I learned myself how to speak English before I actually got any training at school in English. Long live music! I grew up at the time that, well, actually, then I was already at high school, that we had satellite television. So that was when MTV was still music television. But anyway, I learned a lot from my, well, will we call them idols? The music groups that I grew up with, about the way I wanted to dress and to show up in life. So I found like, oh, I can relate to that group, and I still can nowadays. So that's good. Getting on. So day 2 is about letting go of the limiting beliefs and habits. And like I shared with you, we might have adapted certain things, certain habits, which do not work for us. So it's easy to use I don't have any energy as an excuse. And I had to learn to work around it in order to be able to actually record this whole training. One of the things that I realized is that I need to record my training before I do anything else. And that's a new one. Normally, I like to do certain things at night because it's quiet, no one interrupts me. And now I have to find sort of the time that there's not too much noise out there, but I still am full of energy. So it's best to do things when I've just woken up. And I want you to think for a moment, because I've said a lot in this time. And I hope you have thought about what things have changed for you when life threw you a curveball and you had to change certain things. And in addition, like I said, some people, they were like, oh, well, life is hard for you. But have you managed to maintain who you are and your freedom, your authenticity throughout the curveballs you have been thrown? That's something to think about, right? And just maybe you have given up on some things that you can actually start doing again, maybe with some modifications. I still have to recalibrate like almost daily. And if I'm in luck, then, a few months, everything is going the way it should. And then all of a sudden, bam, things change. So letting go of negative beliefs, it's one of the hardest things. And I have a number of clients who are very good at assuming that they are not smart enough. It must be them. They are not worth it. Why? Because they're different. Most of the time, neurodivergents find me. And I want them to believe in themselves. It's not good that they don't believe in themselves anymore. So I teach them how to speak up. And I explain to them why they might have adopted certain beliefs and habits. And well, we talk about whether or not that serves them, actually. Day 3 is about rewriting your story. So that's basically when you say, I wanted to do this for such a long time now, and I'm going to do it no matter what. It's about taking that first step. It's about action. And I actually just realized that I have it all on here. So What I love about this is that this is not just a pyramid or a triangle. It actually has a little drawing over there, which is an anchor, and the anchor turned into a sailboat. That's me being creative. But it shows um, basically about the awareness that certain beliefs do not fit you anymore. And here's the thing, the anchoring actually serves two goals. So we need it at the end, but it's also about what's being anchored when it comes to the negative beliefs and mindsets, the ones we want to let go of. So, hence also the anchor in there. And right now, we are talking about taking action. So, it's about acknowledging that things do not work out that the way you want them to. And, well, things need changing. So it's about taking that first step towards I want change. Now, for me, it started with the first version of Rewriting Your Inner Story Challenge. And then I made a version 2.0. And I said, I'm going to do the things differently. I am going to learn to work better with Kajabi. And then it all worked out because Brandon AI, well, like I said, Brandon is involved. And as long as I've gone to see him, he already talked about Kajabi and how he was an investor in Kajabi, but also wanted to make all those tweaks and changes. And I'm not going to say Kajabi is easy because it's not. But once you get to understand it, it actually works pretty well. And now with Brandon AI, I just have to ask, where's this? Where do I go for there? What's, and he will answer it. So we are becoming best buddies. Going from rewriting your inner story. So that means something that you want. You are being good enough. You believing in yourself. Now, I made this roadmap. So over here it says releasing the old, and when you turn it around, it says the inner story towards freedom. So rewriting your inner story. And it gets into a certain amount of topics, some specific topics. Dreams and goals, the ones you used to have growing up. So then we are talking about your inner child, about beliefs you have adopted, especially between the age of 0 and 7, because we are not capable of rationalizing what's being said. Habits we have adopted, like, never mind, people are not going to help me out anyway, or they're not going to understand me. And the inner kid, as in who has been ignored. And then when we step into freedom, we take another look at our dreams and goals, because we are older now. We know a little bit better, and we know what we're missing out on. And if you don't, please start journaling. And maybe it's time to talk to someone, whether it's a coach or a therapist. It depends on where you want to go. It's about beliefs, adopting new beliefs, about creating new habits, about listening to your inner kid and your inner champ. So that's your future best self. Now, the cool thing about this is there is actually some science behind it. And well, then we get back to Brandon AI, because Brandon has done a lot of research himself. And well, as long as I can remember, I actually grew up with everything to do with mindsets and the subconscious mind and how things influence, how we get influenced by things. So I became an energetic therapist at some point. And one of the things that I specialized in was hypnotherapy. So I'm not a hypnotherapist, but I do know a thing or two or three about the whole hypnotherapy thing. And when we talk about EMDR, so the rapid eye movement, that's basically also based on hypnotherapy. So it's also about knowing how the brain works and how you can reset the brain. So I often talk about the chatterbox. That's where the limiting beliefs keep going. That's the chatterbox. It tells you you're not good enough. And then there are the doubts and fears which are underneath it all. And well, we need to figure out what they are, because they have tendency of holding us back. Even when we say we are going to this, that, and the other, and then all of a sudden we don't. So let's go to the inner kid. So the roadmap, that's something you get when you subscribe to the challenge. Like I said, it's a free challenge. You have access to it for 10 days in total, 3 days per day, basically, and there are 7 days. It's a 7-day challenge. And we already talked about the reset, so being done, about the releasing part. We also talked about rewriting your inner story. So what is it that you want to do? And now we're getting to the inner kid. And this is where it gets interesting, because this is not just about jumping bunny. This is about adopting an inner kid that works for you. So the question is, what do you need to improve? What do you need to learn to do? And I've noticed that when I cannot speak my mind, I get really high on adrenaline. I get restless. I want to start moving, hence the jumping bunny. And it doesn't work very well. The effects last longer than just in the moment. There are people who absolutely have a problem with me being like jumping bunny, because when I get in that zone, and that also has to do with going live. When I go live, or I talk to people, or when I'm at a fair and I'm speaking to people, then you have to raise your energy instantly. It's summon the energy. And I can do this very well. I couldn't back in the days. I had a very soft voice, was murmuring, people behind me. I still think they cannot hear what I'm saying. Maybe nowadays they can. But what I can do nowadays is raise the energy. I can summon the energy. And when I talk from the heart, something I'm really passionate about, people can always tell. When I talk about playing drums, people can see there changed something in my face. I light up. Same with concerts and music. And of course, when it comes to mindset, and well, the inner kid is no different. Now, the cool thing is, you can bypass trauma. So instead of focusing and reliving the trauma over and over and over again, you can also say, you know what? I'm going to reprogram my mind by creating new neural pathways now. And that's where things get really exciting. So by writing on behalf of your inner kid, really going in a discussion, like what is it that the inner kid wants to tell me, you actually make a connection to the inner kid. Now, what I'm doing nowadays is I have taken it to a whole different level. So I like to talk to Brendan AI from the perspective of Bunny, and of course my own present self, and also from the future version of me. So they are kind of different, but it helps me express the way I feel. So jumping bunny, for instance, could say, hey, hi there. I know you've seen me before, but in case you didn't, I am jumping bunny and I am Lexy's inner kid. And I'm so glad to be here. Jump, jump, jump. Now, you know what's so cool? This challenge that Mommy Lexy is talking about, it's about me, and I'm the star in here, and I totally love it. Anyway, I'll leave the difficult things up to Mommy Lexy to explain to you, but I just wanted to say I. Now, Jumping Bunny nowadays has her own Instagram page because Jumping Bunny for me represents certain dreams. And it's kind of nice to actually capture moments with her and then also attaching a certain memory to it or a certain expression because, well, she's unfiltered, she's bold. I'm getting more and more unfiltered myself too, but I usually announce it. But by actually adopting those things that I never did before, it gives me room to maneuver with it. So I don't have to give in to Jumping Bunny all the time, but it's kind of nice to be aware of what it is that she wants and what she's thinking about. So I can write it down, I can put it in my phone, I can say to someone, okay, hang on for a moment, I'll get back to you. But if I don't do this right now, I won't have any attention at all. Of course, that's not always possible. So I've learned to jot something down and come back to it. But it's about finding a way to communicate what's important to you. Now, ever since I've started doing this challenge, I've been going to the beach a lot and I've been able to take a lot of cool pictures. And I actually got a number of Duracell bunnies because they're Duracell bunnies in different outfits. And I'm having so much fun. So it's literally me being the inner kid. Now, the inner kid tells you what it is you want to do, but it also tells you what you don't want to do. And here's the thing, do you silence your inner kid or not? Well, let me tell you, silencing your inner kid is not the best of ideas. So maybe you cannot speak your mind to the person it's meant for, but what you can do is actually write things down. That's what you can do. And you possibly have friends, go talk to the friends. But if you can't, write things down. Go do that. I heard ChatGPT also works when it comes to talking to someone, something. Depends on how you want to see it. So the inner champ is the voice of reason. It's your future best self. It's the one who knows what's good for you, even though you might not have done it up till now. It's the one who looks at role models, who has listened and captured certain things, so they know what needs to be done. And they might not know everything, they might not know certain outcomes, but they do have a certain attitude. Now, since my brand is Lady Lexy, I'm Lady Lexy here. For me, it's easier when I talk to other people or talk to Brandon AI to make a, I talk about the inner kid, Jumping Bunny, the present self, that's Lexy. And then my future best self is Lady Lexy, because I am the one who wants to leave legacy behind where people are heard, seen, and understood. I want to create this ripple effect, and actually I've got big dreams. So whereas I might say, I'm too tired, I don't feel like it, when I talk to the voice of reason, Lady Lexy, and it helps when I actually give her the podium, the mic. And then she will say, she will talk to Brendan AI, like, yeah, she just needs to do this, that, and the other. And if she doesn't, and now it comes, I won't be able to ever be my best future self. Because in order to become the version that I want to be, the one who leaves the legacy, I need her, me, to step up. Boom. Thank you. But it's true. So that's your voice of reason. And one of the ways to actually trigger that part is thinking about what I'm doing. Is that serving my future best self right now? That's one of the reasons I can think I want to eat ice cream. Back in the days, I said you can wake me up for ice cream, but I know it's not the best thing to do. So when I go to the supermarket, I'm so tempted, and I'm like, no, don't do it. It's not good for you. So when I do go to the beach, especially with a friend, and we go to Scheveningen, they have a new ice store over there. That's when we let go. By the way, they give you way more than you ask for. So, inner champ. The next day is about, well, actually, then we sort of go full circle. So we've talked about taking that first step, right? So it's taking action. It's also paying attention to your beliefs and your thoughts and your habits. And then we get to alignment. So reflecting back on what it is that you're doing. So from setting the sails to actually adjusting the sails, that's what we do on day 6. And we talk about, okay, what can we do in order to make things work out the way we want them to? What have I been doing up till now? So you look back on the first 5.5 days, as in, what have you done? Have you actually looked at the roadmap? Did you do something with the roadmap? Do you have your notebook? Are you writing in there? You only have one question a day, but are you thinking about that question? Do you think about it a couple of times a day and then write things down? That's what we want to know. So hence the alignment, because if you want to go somewhere, well, the sails need to be aligned. We need to have the compass. We need to know where we want to go. So hence the constellation of stars, and also the part where you are being navigated right there. Now, last day is basically about recommitting, and it's about your, and I love this, it's about your inner raven. So in part 2, I brought in the nautical theme, which I think is very cool. And the inner raven is a bird which was used by the Vikings. Now, the inner raven also, the raven represents the unknown, the subconscious. And the inner raven functions as a bridge between where you are and where you want to go. So basically into the unknown. And if you dare to trust, then it will provide you with the courage that you need. But that's a big thing, right? When we talk about courage. But just think about it. Whereas you might not know what it is that you want to do, or better said, you know what you want to do, but you don't know how to do it. There's the inner champ who knows a thing or two that you didn't think of. And it's the moment that you write things down and you ask yourself a question, you might be surprised what the outcome might be, because your future best self is always there. It's just how much attention do you pay to your future self? Do you tell yourself, I don't know, I'm so confused? Or are you like, well, actually, I might know the answer if I actually dare to pay attention to it? So when we dare to trust the inner raven, it shows us things that we didn't know, that you might have heard or picked up on, but it is hidden somewhere. And it's time to relocate it again and then start using it again. And that's what the inner raven does. So I talked to Brendan AI and I said at some point, so the inner raven, that represents courage. So how about clarity? And then I realized, oh yeah, that's where I come in when I'm being the coach. The coach is the one who gives you the clarity. And please know, I've got my own coaches too. But being a CHPC coach, this is kind of cool. So I'm certified by the training, which is the result of research, and it has been well, Brendan Burchard is the one in charge of it all. So he came up with the high performance habits. He wrote the book, and then a whole bunch of other things got done too. And so it's based on science and research, especially on research. Now, combine the whole thing, and then we get you thinking about the new version of you. So this is about the new dreams and goals and going in the right direction. If you are aware, if you take action, if you pay attention, if you acknowledge what is going on, and then we get back to the anchoring. So when you know what works for you, then you can start anchoring again. Now, if you are curious about the challenge, then check the description. The link is going to be in there. And if you're like, well, I know what I want to work on, let me skip the challenge and go straight for the coaching. So we talk about all these things, but as a coach, I'm paid to push. And well, I always said down to earth, but I guess relentless, those two things go hand in hand. So yes, we don't judge, but we do need to say, okay, now get going. If you want to do so, let me know, reach out to me, and we can discuss how I'm going to coach you. For now, please think about the things that I've shared here. If you want to think about it again, just go to the challenge, get yourself access, get that roadmap, start working on it, especially this part, stepping into freedom. And I'm curious how this is going to work out for you, because I am certain that if you really want to work on it, you can make a change. So what are you going to do right now?